Hello and welcome to HCS Connects. I'm Kelly Gorel with Hampton City Schools. Today we have Dr. John Caggiano with us, who is our Deputy Superintendent of Curriculum, Instruction, and Assessment. So welcome to HCS Connects.
Thank you very much. It's a pleasure to be with you today.
Yeah, so you have a large hat, not many hats, but a large hat that umbrella of curriculum, instruction, and assessment. And we just had a lot of news coming out in regards to SOLs, now accreditation, and very soon on-time graduation rate and dropout rate. So glad to have you here today so you can explain all of this to us because it's extremely complicated. So tell us about what is the difference between like SOLs, which the state just released a few weeks ago, opposed to accreditation, which was just released by the state?
Sure, yes, great question. So the state does have a very comprehensive accountability system. And so not too long ago, as you noted, the state released what are known as SOL pass rates. So all the students who take SOLs throughout Virginia who pass the assessments, put them in the nominator, and the total test takers in the denominator, divide, and that gets you your pass rates for each school and each school division. And then what happens is as the fall unfolds, September 22nd, of course, the state has now released the accreditation ratings for each school. And those accreditation ratings, the schools will receive report cards, for example, and those are all based on 8 school quality indicators, soon to be 9 at the end of this year. So you've got an indicator like the all students performance in English, the all students performance in math, and then they also look at some non-academic indicators like chronic absenteeism. And so in addition to pass rates, the state's report cards and these school quality indicators also take into account student growth. So schools can also receive credit for students demonstrating growth from previous school years.
So that is pretty complex, comprehensive and complex, because it's not just a straight pass rate score like the SOLs. You're looking at different indicators, and it's 6 indicators for elementary and middle, is that correct? And then 8 indicators for high school. Is that right?
That is correct, and soon to be 9 for high school at the end of this school year. So the 6 indicators, the performance of the all students group in reading, math, and science, and then chronic absenteeism is number 4. And then the state also looks at and analyzes closely student group performance. And so you have various student groups, 8 student groups, for example, at the end of the 18-19 school year, 9 student groups now. And the performance in math, for example, for all of those student groups, aggregated to one overall rating or score on a school's report card. And so that really represents those 6 different indicators.
And when you say student groups, give me a few examples of what are student groups?
Yes, so student groups could be, for example, by racial makeup, could be students with disabilities, it could be disadvantaged student populations. So again, about 8 different groups that all scores come together based on certain business rules to derive at one overall rating for a school for English for student group performance and then mathematics for student group performance.
So that was a lot of information.
Yes, very comprehensive system.
That was a lot of information in a very short amount of time. I almost feel like I need my Cliff Notes to go back. So what does that mean for Hampton City Schools? What did today's accreditation rating mean?
Yes, great question. So I'm very pleased to report that 100% of Hampton City schools are accredited. So there are different levels or ratings associated with the state's kind of report card system, and it's fairly easy to see. So you've got 4 different categories. You have accredited without conditions, accredited with conditions, accreditation denied, or accreditation withheld. And again, 100% of our schools are accredited. If you break that down by category, 26 out of 29 schools are accredited without conditions.
Which is the highest level of accreditation.
Which is the highest level of accreditation, correct. And then the second highest level, schools accredited with conditions. We have 3 schools accredited with conditions, and certainly pleased to report no schools accreditation denied or no schools accreditation withheld.
Well, that is great news. Of course, you would hope that all 100% are accredited without conditions, but still to have 26 of the 29 without and 3 with, coming off of 3 school years. I mean, really, when you look at since the 1920 school year when the pandemic hit, then we were all out. Then the next school year, pretty much virtual the majority of the year, bringing back select students, grade levels that wanted to be in person. And then last year only being the very first year of 1 full year of in-person instruction, but still with students that wanted to be virtual. Wow, that's a lot to celebrate. I mean, honestly.
Sure, and I thought, one thing when the state releases their data, it does help divisions to put things into context. And so when we look at, for example, neighboring divisions with similar demographics, and you look at 90%, 26 out of 29 of our schools accredited without conditions, we have fared very well through the pandemic and really bounced back quickly in reference to learning loss, for example, because some of those other divisions are anywhere from 27, 28, 30, over 30 percentage points as far as differential of overall schools accredited without conditions. So we're very proud of that. A lot of hard work, a lot of staff involvement, obviously. Starting with the collaborative relationship between our superintendent, Dr. Jeffrey Smith, the school board, and the city council, their leadership and support, all three groups there, and trickling all the way down, of course, to classroom teachers and building administrators and the impact they're having on students directly.
Well, and just to kind of recap what you said, so with 26 of 29 schools, that means we're 90% accredited without conditions. And looking at our neighboring school divisions on the peninsula and south side that have similar student demographics, we're outpacing them by approximately 30% for every school division, that has similar student demographics. I mean, almost 30% higher. That's phenomenal work.
Yeah, when you look at the actual percentage in those divisions, it ranges anywhere from 57 to 61% of their schools accredited without conditions. And then when you look at also SOL pass rates, you'll see again, our students' performance has really bounced back much quicker than not only within the region, but throughout the state. For example, if you analyze the math performance of our students compared to the state of Virginia, there's some notable gains. For example, those student groups I mentioned, those 8 different student groups in mathematics, for each of those 8 groups, our students outperform state averages. And then in reading, in 6 of those 8 groups, again, our students outperform state averages. So again, a tribute to a lot of hard work and the systems we've had in place for a number of years, really pre-pandemic, that put us in a position, again, to bounce back quickly. And we have certain student groups, for example, students with disabilities in the area of reading actually outperform, and at the end of last school year, outperform the students with disabilities in reading pre-pandemic at the end of the 18-19 school year, which is a testament. Ms. Kimberly Judge, who leads special education, and all of our special educators, and our students and families who have really worked hard to address some of those gaps.
Well, and you keep saying we bounce back quickly, but it really isn't even about bouncing back, because we've really kept pace or that momentum going because of things that we had in place pre-pandemic that really kind of set us up for success. Not us, but set our students up for success because of the hard work of our teachers, our instructional toolkit, our guaranteed viable curriculum, our one-to-one initiative for grades 5 through 12 pre-pandemic, and then quickly to make that one-on-one Chromebook initiative for pre-K through 4, not bouncing back, because the buzzword really is all after the pandemic. I know we're still dealing with COVID, but everybody's pretty much back in person, some sense of normalcy this year. But the buzzword everywhere is learning loss, learning loss. So it's not bouncing back from learning loss. If you're saying that there are subgroups that are outperforming, not subgroups, student groups that are outperforming even pre-pandemic. So it's really just keeping that momentum. There's still work to do. We've got 3 schools that are accredited with conditions. And what are those 3 schools, and why are they accredited with conditions?
Sure, and with the state now releasing this information, there is a portion of their website called the School Quality Profiles that often parents can go to, and you can see a school's report card. And so when you go to that website, or when you look at this large report we have at the division, 150-page report that analyzes this data, that those 3 schools, their report card is fairly green all over. For example,
Green's good.
Green is good,
Okay.
yes, a level 1 rating. And so when you look at all the different 5 of the 6 school quality indicators for each of those 3 schools, they met the state's benchmarks. And so they would have been, based on that, accredited without condition. So all 3 of those schools, Bassett Elementary, Machen Elementary, and Mary T. Christian Elementary, the one school quality indicator where they did not meet the benchmark was in the area of elementary science, which is a grade 5 assessment in science.
So just that grade 5 science, that one indicator has made them accredited with conditions, but they met the other 5 indicators where that would have been accredited without conditions, that
That's
highest
correct.
ranking.
Yes.
So, okay, we know now that it's grade 5 science at 3 schools So what supports are we putting in place, or have we put in place to start this school year?
Certainly, certainly. I also want to recognize Dr. Janice Richardson, our curriculum leader for science, and she and her team have been working very hard this summer, just taking a look at data, analyzing data all the way down to the individual student question level by school, by division, and so as a result, a number of changes, right, adjustments being made. So we've revised assessments to tighten alignment. We've made some curricular revisions, particularly to grade 5 science. We have some of our rock star teachers who had phenomenal results last year who are now hosting optional Zoom sessions each quarter. They're doing that. And we have strategies such as an interactive notebook that we're deploying throughout 5th grade where students are really drawing graphical representation, for example, of science experiments and helping them make connections to what the content is asking them to demonstrate understanding of. And probably one, I know Peg TV, who's taping today, have been a great partner working with our department. So they started last week. We have one teacher who has actually pushed up her pacing, so teaching things 2 weeks earlier before everyone else. And for her labs, Peg TV is coming out to record those labs, her engaging with her students, hands-on learning, and then we link that lab in our curriculum for teachers to view a video a week and a half to 2 weeks prior to them having to be responsible for teaching it. And so those are some different creative solutions that we believe, not just for those 3 schools, but division-wide, that will really impact grade 5 science.
Well, we've also worked on a lot of just hands-on opportunities for our students, particularly in the 5th grade, partnering last year with the James River Association, JRA, and the National Park Service, Chesapeake, to have that great hands-on experience where the students have multiple activities through the year, and then they get to go out on a boat within the James River and do different hands-on experiences or scientific experiments.
That's right.
And then they're over at Fort Monroe doing a land base. So there's a lot, which just won a national award. So there's just a lot that's being done to science to make sure that we're really looking and putting a focus on that.
It is. It's one of our 3 instructional focus areas as a division this year, and I would also mention Shored Up, a local company, is a part of that collaboration with the other entities you mentioned, and a part of an oyster restoration that our students contribute to each year working in the Bay. But yes, it is exciting to see where we're headed, and we're confident that by the end of the school year that 100% of our schools will be accredited without conditions.
Well, and not even like you're saying 100% are accredited, you know, the majority without conditions. Correct. I gotta stop for a moment. Yes. Without conditions, and then the 3 with. But there are some of those student groups that in English and math, like they tell me about how they blew that out of the water for accreditation.
They did. You know, when you look at performance and trend data in Hampton City schools, we don't recall a year where we've had that all students group. That's one of the school quality indicators on the report card. So for example, all students in a school who take a math test, and that is one of the ratings on the state's report card. So this is the first time that we can recall ever in the accountability movement in Virginia where 29 out of 29, all of our schools in reading and mathematics actually surpassed the state's benchmark. And so 29 out of 29 schools met that green level 1 rating, which is the highest level rating for English and the highest level rating for mathematics. And so that was certainly a celebration for our school division.
It's absolutely a celebration. Again, coming off of 3 full school years of dealing with the pandemic, and then you're saying for the first time in Hampton City Schools history, for that all students group in English and in English reading, language arts, and math, all 29 schools.
Yeah, and you know, really hats off to our chiefs of school leadership, Dr. Raymond Haynes, Dr. Stacy Barreau, who work closely with our school administrators. And when you look at the shortage really throughout our country, teacher shortage, again, the work of Robin Ruth and the Human Resources Department. So, and of course, having the right people on the bus and the right seats makes a big difference.
Makes a huge difference for our students.
Exactly.
It really does.
Yeah, a lot of dedicated employees, for sure.
So that was a lot of information on accreditation, but I would be remiss if we did not also mention the upcoming news that's coming out of Virginia Department of Education in just several days about on-time graduation rate and dropout rate. And so I know we've got preliminary data, and it won't be officially announced until, you know, several days from when we are speaking right now, but give us the good news.
So certainly, again, congratulations to Dr. Haynes and all of his work and leadership, working closely with the executive principals at the high school level, academy principals, graduation specialists,
Graduation coaches, teachers.
Graduation coaches, and really students stepping up and rising to the challenge. You know, if you think back to 2015, we had a dropout rate of 5.04%, and then last year we had a dropout rate of 0.34%, which is less than 1% in 5 students. And so there was a slight uptick in the dropout rate this year to 0.62%, which again is 9 students, so less than 10 students, less than 1% of our high school graduating cohort, which is approximately 1,400 students.
Say, that's about 1,400 students when you look at that cohort that just graduated.
So again, yes, and certainly well below, that dropout rate well below state averages, well below averages in the region. It is a big number to celebrate, even though there's slight uptick there.
Slight uptick, but only by a student or two when you put that into perspective,
right.
And it's still below 1%. And I want to say, I know you said 5% just in the 2015-2016 school year. Was that correct?
2014-15.
2014-15. But if you even look back to when the state started looking at on-time graduation rate and dropout rate, we were double digits about a decade ago.
We were, yes, we were. And that is one, you know, kudos to the state when you look at a comprehensive accountability system and holding divisions accountable for every student when it comes to graduation. And so, again, a lot of hard work and action plans in place, but the same thing, that work is translated into an all-time high for Hampton. We're projecting on September 29th when the on-time graduation, that 4-year, when the student starts high school in 9th grade and graduates in 4-year, the state refers to that as the on-time graduation rate. Again, going back to 2015, we were at 88% on-time graduation rate, and then 96.86 at the end of the 2021 school year.
Which was last year, okay.
And then the last school year, the 2021-2022 school year, that particular cohort, we're pleased to announce preliminary data, an on-time graduation rate of 97.64%. So again, a big celebration for us as a division, as a city, in reference to the number of students who are walking across stage after 4 years of high school.
That is phenomenal. Again, after 4 years, 3 years of dealing with, I keep saying it, a pandemic, but the numbers are showing that where students are in school, they're graduating on time. I mean, that's a phenomenal number. And you also have to kind of recognize the academies of Hampton. The last two graduating classes, the class of 2021 was our inaugural graduating class, and last year's graduating class, the class of 2022, is just our second graduating class to have that full 9th through 12th grade experience of the academies of Hampton, and look at the graduation rate already climbing, and especially where it was back in 2015. So there's some good things going on.
Yeah, you know, one of the deciding factors for bringing the Academies of Hampton to Hampton, when you look at the initial legwork from Dr. Donna Woods, who's retired, Chief of Secondary School Leadership for us, as well as Dr. Haynes, Dr. Jeffrey Smith as well, obviously, leading the charge, working closely with our school board and city council. The students who had been in other divisions, for example, Nashville, Tennessee, under that model, and the level of engagement. And so, again, one of those criteria we saw in doing that research was an increase in graduation rates. And we're seeing that as this model comes to fruition in Hampton.
Well, because kids are engaged. They're doing something they enjoy, so they're staying in school.
That's right.
That's excellent.
Attendance increasing in the grades, et cetera. So it has been an exceptional model, and we're again beginning to reap the benefits of that model.
Well, there's still a lot of hard work ahead. Want to hopefully have close to 100% on-time graduation rate in the future. Again, 100% of our schools accredited without conditions in the future. So there's definitely work, and we know how we need to support those students that might need that extra support. But we're also looking at all of our students that they're on the right track, but how do we continue to engage them and also, you know, hone in on skills and also reinforce and enrichment kind of things.
Yes, so again, I mentioned earlier, lots of systems in place, and you know, one system we're very proud of that has been developed in-house, and a lot of hard work on the part of Linda Dietz, who heads our kind of data and accountability leg of our school division, and that is creating data sets and presenting it in such a way that's easily digestible for example, building administrators, and then using that data, right, to make decisions, particularly around instruction or programmatic-wise. And so, again, because of that is another example of being able to be very strategic from a strategic planning standpoint and deploying human resources in a strategic manner. So again, It's another example of a celebration for a division of a system that's functioning well, continues to evolve, but functioning well.
Well, and I think as we wrap up, a huge celebration, or just a shout out to, like you said, our building level administrators, our central office administrators, our teachers, our instructional assistants, all of the staff, because everybody is involved in the success of our students, from our food and nutrition service workers, our transportation department, with our custodians, our nurses. Like, everyone has just wrapped their arms around our students, to also include our families and the community at large. We've got so many wonderful community partners from the business world, faith-based. It's really a good thing to be in Hampton City Schools.
It is. It truly is a team effort, and team is inclusive, representative of internal and external stakeholders by all means.
And most importantly, the students worked really hard.
They did. Ultimately, it was them who had the opportunities to challenge and show what you know, right? And so they stepped up, and as Dr. Smith would say, the proof is in the taste of the pudding.
He does say that.
When you take a look at our scores, I think it's certainly representative of that.
Well, excellent. Well, thank you so much for being here with us today, and really taking a very complex, comprehensive, it is a comprehensive approach. It's complex to explain, but breaking that down, hopefully this could be the cliff notes for everyone that's watching when they try to understand SOLs, accreditation, on-time graduation rate, dropout rate, and just really how we deliver teaching and learning in Hampton City Schools.
Well, thank you again for having me on. It's been a pleasure to speak with you today.
All right. And thank you for joining us on HCS Connects. Remember, it's easy to stay connected.